What is up, everybody? Welcome to a special episode, episode 17 of Beyond the Finish Line. Today we have Josh Rosenthal. Josh is a trail runner,
Hey.
A serial entrepreneur, founder of Borderlands Trail Running, a platinum focused on the intersection of trail running and storytelling. It's really, really awesome, by the way. He hosts the Borderland Ultra Running podcast, formerly known as DFL before DNF, and he'll talk about this today, but he's also, I think, re-releasing the Wylder app. Also, if you get a chance to check out his new series he's been doing on Borderlands called A Bad Runner's Take, I really love it. It's got some pretty cool hot takes on like a lot of different issues. Like, it's a pretty broad stroke on trail running. And also, I really, really dug his 100th episode. It was like a 4-song series of suffering and survival during a 100-mile trail race. And kind of what that might sound like, I actually really dug that episode. I found Josh early on in my trail running journey, early on before when it was actually called DFL before DNF, and I really dug into his Trail Grit series around the time that I found my love for trail running, and I shifted towards kind of looking at doing 100 miles myself. I always loved how raw those documentaries were, and I've been following along ever since I started my 100-mile journey myself. But before we bring Josh to the chat, let's get some housekeeping out of the way. So friends of the pod, obviously your support is invaluable. So please do us a huge favor, like, share, subscribe, rate, review the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcast and content from Run Try Mag and Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. Outside of my show, we have 8 others now. Fireside Chats with Ohm and Jason, Fire Embers also with Ohm and Jason, Running Tales with my man Craig Lewis across the pond, a new show, Enduring Minds, hosted by Evan Birch, and Ohm Gandhi and Jason Bahumandi have been on there. It's a really awesome episode or a podcast about men's mental health, and it's a really refreshing take on that. Also, me and my pal Ohm Gandhi host What's in Your Earbuds. We just talk about music. Running. We have 5 hours and 46 minutes of music on there now, which is really impressive. And we have some new episodes of Caffeinated Coaching with Lori Hauk coming forward. And we have Food Fight Friday with Jason Bahumandi and Adam Lee from Community Trail Running. Your engagement helps build this community, and we cannot do that without you. So without further ado, let's bring Josh forward, which he's already here, and let's have this fantastic chat with Josh.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me.
That's a whole lot of words in the intro, man. I'll get through that one day.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it. You know, the intros to me are the hardest part because you got to keep people engaged. You got to say the stuff you need to say, and so you're not going to get any judgment from me. I'm just glad to be here.
Yeah, cool, man. Thank you. Like I said, I've been following along for a while, and I was, I guess, an early-ish adapter to the DFL before DNF series, and I've just always loved it, man. And
thank you.
I really like. It's been cool to see how your like reach and like podcast has grown, and it's just really cool. And so when you said you'd be on the podcast, I was honored. I'm a little nervous. I won't lie. I feel like I feel like I've got kind of like a trail running or a podcasting like heavy hitter on my podcast now. So I'll do my best to keep up.
Oh yeah, man. No, I tell you that's what I love about this sport, because I feel the same way sometimes with certain people I've had on my podcast. And it's just like, once you get talking about running, it's like all of that other stuff just goes away. And it's like we're able to just get really stoked about all the same stuff, like the human spirit that endures through, let's say transcends wherever you're at in the world, wherever I'm at in the world. There's always these things that weave us together, and it just makes for great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's cool how no matter where you are, there's like a tie that binds us all together in some really cool way.
Very cool.
So yeah, man, I'm stoked to have you on this side of the mic. I've heard you interview a lot of people, so I just like to kind of come out of the gate and ask the big question right up front. Yeah. Like I said, you're a lot of things. I don't want to put you in like a box. So let's just start with the big question: who is Josh Rosenthal?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to, there's lots of different aspects of that. Like I think about myself as a entrepreneur first. I just love starting things. Like I think of myself as torque. I'm really good torque. Like I can go from nothing to something, really well. And so I end up doing that. That's my space that I'm most comfortable with. I'm not really great at, growing something else. And so I'm always kind of starting new things and trying to get them to certain points of momentum and then trying to bring on people to support me in it. But in the end, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a runner. And then after that, I'm so thankful that in the last, let's say, 2.5 years that my life has been in the ultra and trail running space professionally as well.
Oh, nice. So being that said, obviously you had to start somewhere. So like, where did that all begin? Like, obviously, you didn't just start out in the trail running space. So how'd you get there? I mean, what's your running journey, like trail running journey?
Yeah,
I'm really curious
man,
about that.
every time I recall a new memory, it's always like, okay, maybe that's where it started. Maybe that's where it started. And like, there was a really important, man in my life, mentor type in the early 2000s. He really kind of drugged me out and got me running in Salt Lake City. This was 2002, summer of 2002. We were running on the road up Big Cottonwood Canyon. And, I'm coming from West Texas before that, where there's no hills. So I had, some really fond memories of that. And then I started to, kick around the half marathon distance. And Salt Lake City has a really great half marathon. And so I did that, and, I enjoyed that, but I wasn't like getting into the culture until one day. I wasn't in the road running culture, but then my friend Jeremy Cox, who we did a documentary about him called DFL before DNF,
Yeah.
he essentially handed me a DVD at the time of Unbreakable. And that's when it sort of clicked for me. Like I had this really, even like before that, all these things that come to mind say maybe that was the start. The first time I ever heard of anyone running 100 miles, so my wife is a food writer, and we were at the release of Park City Magazine issue, whatever, in 2009. And just the two of us, no kids. So we go into this magazine release and they seat us at a table for four. It's like, oh, who are we going to sit with at this table for four? Well, it's these really nice, lovely people who are also runners. And it was Brian Powell and Megan Hicks who started I Run Far. And that meant nothing to me. They hadn't really started it yet necessarily either. Or maybe it had some momentum at the time. They're like, yeah, we're a writer. We also wrote an article for the magazine, but we write about running 100 miles. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds so dumb. I don't even know where to start. Then I meet my friend Jeremy. He gives me the DVD. And then I'm swept into the North Face Endurance Challenge series, which was just a wonderful, wonderful race put on up in Park City every year. I did it 4 years in a row at different distances. That was my first trail half. That was my first trail 50. And then I attempted the 50 miler one year, got snowed out and rerouted halfway through and wasn't my day. So that North Face really built some fondness because they put on some great races. So coming off of running road, and I'm not fast, I'm anything but fast. So the experience was incredible. The race director was incredible. And so my appetite was just, I don't even know how to describe it. It was just like, I was exploding. Like my heart was bursting. I was so like, oh my God, this is incredible. And so then I want to try the 50 miler again. And I start training and I run the Capitol Reef 50 miler, which was a old Ultra Adventures race that was later bought out by Vacation Races, who owns Zion, Bryce, and Antelope Canyon now. And I run that 50 miler with one of my best friends who was able to drag me across the finish line. And now I'm sucked into Ultra Adventures, and all I want to do is run in the desert. And that's all I can ever think about. And I remember one time I was running, and these are Matt Gunn races. So anyone who knows Utah Ultra Running has a lot of people to thank for it. Like Carl Metzler, Speed Goat, he's helped put it on the map. But Matt Gunn put the best races together, outside of the Wasatch 100 and the Bear 100. Matt was the ultra running scene, in my opinion. And I just remember running one of his races once thinking, I would love to own, I'm entrepreneurial at heart. I'd started a coffee company at this point that was doing decently well. I'd love to own these races someday. That's just where my mind always goes, like, oh, I want to own this because, that to me is my greatest expression of love. It's not an expression of power. It's affection. It's like, oh, I want to own this and I want to be the steward of it and I want to take care of it. So that's my journey. Like, that's how we're running started for me and how it became also like where my mind started to think through business, the business of trail running.
I love that. I kind of align with that because I do the same thing. It's like once I find something that I love, like you said, I'll just like explode into it. And
Yes.
then I'm just like, how can I make this like basically a full-time job and maybe
Yeah.
make a little bit of money?
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
the
Let's
same
see.
way.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. So, I mean, you were from West Texas, so you already had kind of like roots in the desert anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like where after running in the desert, do you think it's just because you're from there, or is like, what's so special
Oh,
about running in the desert?
okay. I'm really struggling here because I'm trying to put together like a little mini documentary that's an open love letter to the desert,
Yeah.
because I want to be able to articulate it. It's very hard to articulate. Um, I always joke, so Boulder, Utah, I always say that's the real Boulder. The Boulder in Colorado is the secondary Boulder, but the real Boulder is in Utah. And there's something really unique and special about it that it brings like, I'm going to get this partially wrong, so I apologize in advance, but the spirit is going to be there. There's like, it's like a spiritual sort of epicenter for maybe Buddhist monks come through. There's apparently like this international line of related to gravity on some level that passes through the world in a certain way, and it goes through Boulder, Utah. And there's something about Boulder, Utah that when you're there, your body feels different. Your body feels more at rest and more at peace. I think I butchered that, but I'm trying to
I
tap
love
into
that.
that to understand that better, because when I'm in the desert, there's something about my body that feels more at rest and more at peace, even than in the mountains. I love the mountains, of course, but because you can't see for a long ways, I feel like in the mountains, I'm still always nervous what's around the next corner. Just like when I'm in a city, like I got to be alert. I don't know what's coming around that corner. But in the desert, I can see forever. And so it's the inverse of that fear. It's like in the desert, the fear is what you can see, compared to the mountains. It's the fear of what you can't see. And so because I can see the thing that I'm potentially most scared of, I can also deal with it. And so like there's this constant processing in the desert to me that is unencumbered and like entirely allows me to be whole and full and this really great feeling. But at the same time, there's like no jagged edges in the desert, like this, because of the way that they weather and the smoothness. So when your eyes are looking at this vast unencumbered landscape, the whole thing with your eyes unfocused, I'm looking at things that are miles away instead of this screen that's 12 inches away. So my eyes are in a different state, and all of the edges that I'm taking in are all smooth and round, and like there's just nothing to me that is uncomfortable or anxiety inducing in those moments. And so it's just the type of place that I just want to be. Like there's a famous painter of the West, Maynard Dixon. And if you saw any of Maynard Dixon's paintings, like that's what I always say is like, I just want to be in a Maynard Dixon painting, because the colors of the desert, like the desaturated reds and the desaturated greens and the smooth lines, it's just like, it's heaven on earth. I don't know how else to explain it other than it's where I want to be.
Oh man, I love that. Yeah, obviously not the desert, but I've like exhausted myself thinking about why I love running in the Midwest
Yeah.
so much. Like I
Mm.
can never quite put my finger on like how it makes me feel to be. I mean, you don't quite get the views, but there's just like a nice flow to like these like single tracks here, and it's just like I wish I
Yeah.
could like articulate exactly what I love about like being in this space right now. But maybe
Yeah.
one day I'll come up with it. Man, that was so well said.
Yeah.
Um,
Thanks. I'm working on it because I really like, I've written these drafts over and over again. I think, no, it's not getting it. I'm not getting it yet. Like and I think I like the way you said, I've never even contemplated it, because Lubbock, when it's your hometown, you're like, it's hard to see anything good about it. Like all you can
yeah,
see is the things that made life hard for you in your hometown. And I was in Salt Lake City for 22 years before being in France now. And so I spent about 19 years in Texas, and all I wanted to do was get out of there. And I did. And now I'm at the point where it's like, I kind of want to be back there. Like there's always this draw also, like as a dog returns to their vomit, I
yeah,
think about, oh, maybe I'll go back to where I'm from that I used to hate. But it's interesting that I never really think of it the desert, even though it's high desert, just like Utah is. It's somewhat different landscape, but it's even like more eerily flat. And so yeah, that's a good observation. There's probably some connection also, like in a fond way, to where I'm from.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm back in my hometown. It's the same thing. I couldn't wait to get out of here when I was younger, and now it's
Yeah.
just no matter where I go, I always kind of feel like a pull back to like
Where are
kind of
you
like
at?
my. I'm actually north of Indianapolis in like a small little
Okay.
like rural community. Lebanon, Indiana. It's in Boone County, but
Okay.
it's just so like you have to drive to get to the trails here, but when you get there, they're so special. It's worth every minute that I have to travel. I'll have to go 2 hours in either direction to get places, but when you get there, it's like you're on a different planet when you
Yeah.
run some of these Midwest trails, and they're like way more like you think Indiana's flat and cornfields, but when you get
Yeah.
on those like real punchy, rooty, technical trails, you might as well be on a different planet at that point.
Yeah, and I think
It's a
probably on
special
some
place.
levels, what we're always trying to do, like, because I think of this like in-depth fondness for the desert, and like you talk about it there. Like I think on some levels, what we're trying to bottle up is how we feel when we're out there, and so much of how we feel when we're out there is also this incredible gratitude and joy for getting to do this thing that's so hard that makes us feel strong, makes us feel capable. And so on a lot of levels, it's like, yeah, I did that in the desert. Is that because of the desert, or is that because of like this unbelievable headspace that I go into when I'm there because of the chemicals that are firing? And, I like to dream of myself as this strong, capable man. And I don't have any proof of that because I'm behind the computer all the time. The only time I get to prove that who I think I am is when I'm in the desert trying to run 100 miles, like, so all of that is what gets bottled up. So is it the desert, or is it who I get to be in the desert? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, I love that. Same here. I feel like I can like take on the world like on a trail, and then I realize that like if I skip my like allergy medication for the day, I'd be useless.
Exactly, 100%.
Well, so you basically, so it sounds like, I guess, to back up on your running story a bit. So it sounds like you never really had like a little bit of road running, but so you started just like right out of the gate trail running. That's pretty rad. So you didn't,
Yeah.
but so you didn't have to like go through all the regular steps of road running, like 5Ks. You didn't have to do any of that. Like you
Right.
didn't basically skipped over that to trail. I mean, that's awesome.
I
Um,
wish I had done some of that when I was a kid, just to build my engine a little bit better. I
yeah.
think no, zero regrets, but sometimes I think, oh, I wish I could run a little bit faster. Maybe, if I had in my prime years of being able to build my engine in my teenage years, if I had done cross country. But I mean, I actually, from an identity standpoint, I love being way at the back of the pack. I don't mind. I mean, it's fun. The parties back there, the
Oh
people,
man.
we'll stop and talk for hours sometimes, and move slow because we're struggling together. So I love that component so much.
100% agree with you. Like like I've heard you say the same thing. It's like I would love to be like fast. I
Yeah.
would love to like be on the podium, but it's
Yeah.
never going to happen.
Yeah.
That's fine with me. But
Yeah.
man, I love it back there. I
Yeah.
like some of like the friendships that I have that I've made, and like
Yeah.
I mean I still talk to people that I have struggled with through like a lot of these races. So
Yeah.
yeah, I totally agree with that. Maybe one day I always joke that maybe one day I'll age into like a master's.
I've always thought that too. Like maybe if I just stick with it long enough and I'm like 70 and I'm trying to run 100 miles, I'm going to be considered fast for my age.
So something that's really like what's drawn me to your podcast and like the Trail Grit series.
Yeah.
I think I found it because same thing. I did a little bit of road running, and then I by chance joined guy like I work on like a cubicle farm during the day, and there's this mechanical engineer that I work pretty closely with, and he's just like, hey, we should go run at Eagle Creek State Park. I was just like, wait, we're gonna run where? He's like, just follow me, and like, so I follow him after work that day. We run the Red Loop Trail, Eagle Creek Park, cool little park. I didn't know people could run in the woods, and I thought it was preposterous. we ran 13 miles without water. But I hadn't been over 5 miles before that without water or like any calories, and I absolutely was destroyed. And I was absolutely 100% head over heels of trail running before I even knew what it was called.
Yeah.
And I came home. I get on YouTube. I was like Googling everything, like people running in the woods. Like I didn't know what to call this thing. I just knew it was special, and I wanted to
That's great.
do it every free minute of my life. And that led me to, I believe, Billy Yang's A Day in the Life. And I was just like, not only do people run the woods, people run 100 miles. Like this is wild. I've got to be like probably 100 or over 100 of those views on that documentary on YouTube at this point. And then I'm just scrolling through 100 mile. I think I just YouTube, like Googled like running 100 miles, and I found your documentaries, which have been awesome. It's been like a huge catalyst in my 100-mile journey, which I'm still on. I ended up DNFing my first 100-miler.
Right. You're safe here.
Yeah. So I was just like, well, something that's always kind of motivated me was like, is how you like you own it. I love that.
Yeah.
And first of all, like your passion for the 100-mile distance blows me away. And even though I've only tried it one time, it's like, even though like that DNF just made me love it more in some really weird way. So my question, I guess, is like, where did your love for the 100-mile distance come from?
Okay. So I really love so many things, not everything, but so many things about like the idea of the cowboy. And there's like not even the cowboy, but the myth of the cowboy. So the myth that myth surrounds other things too. But my family is, 6 generations Texas. I would have been 6. My kids would have been, I think, 7th generation Texas had I stayed, maybe 6th. So I have an affinity toward that. And there's something about the fact that it's 100 miles. So a mile, it's very American compared to the metric system. It's not the 100K, not the 50K. Love those distances, but there's like this mile thing that there's a connection with. And then the fact that, 100 miles, like to an old punk rock skateboarding kid, 50K sounds like a long way. For some reason, marathon in my head feels harder and longer than 50K. And I don't know why, but I think, 50K, of course that's hard. Of course 50 miles is hard. Of course 62 miles is hard. But there's something about 100 to me that awakens the same part of my brain that wakes up when I think about the myth of the cowboy, which the myth of the cowboy is something that's largely, and I mean, I think largely I have issue with it, but there's also romance to it of like, I can do this. I am strong. I am capable. I'm going to ride off into the sunset. I'm going to be the hero that doesn't need the praise. I'm the one, like all I need is me. And all of these things are, largely lies. I'm not saying that like I'm trying to normalize the myth of the cowboy, and we are truly that, but there's something romantic about it, uniquely, in my blood as an American to think that way on some levels. And so to me, there's just that 100 mile just feels like, wow, that is like a pinnacle of, I mean, I need a better word than endurance because this is an endurance sport, but like, that's the pinnacle of, when I think of endurance, I don't think it's of like endurance running and heart rates and zone 2 and all that. I think like sticking with something that is so far beyond what should be possible for this punk rock kid from West Texas, where there's not even sidewalks most of the time. You don't run, and like, it felt like an identity I wanted to grab onto and be like, yeah, I think I am a 100-mile runner, even though I DNF'd 8 of 10 attempts now. That's who I think of myself in my head. That's what motivates me. That's who I want to be. That's who I want to be, someone who will go after something that's so hard and so unlikely that I'm so unlikely to finish it. That's who I am. So it's like the thing I grabbed onto that helped tell the world, I can't articulate who I think I am, but look, I'm going to try and run 100 miles. Look at that culture. I want to be in that culture. That's who I am.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's like, I think it's like the one, like, I agree with you. I think like running like 100 miles for me, it's like, I kind of have to be like, I kind of have to like show up to my 9 to 5 and be like the dad and like, all this stuff and responsibilities and like, mortgage payments. And it's like, but something about running 100-mile, like strips all that away. I just get to be like, I get to go after like I kind of get to be like a dirt bag, kind of like, I just get to like, myself. And I think I wish I could articulate how it makes me feel. Even though I've only DNF'd, I've DNF'd my first at first. I'm going after another one. I wish I could even kind of just. I'm gonna try the Mohican 100 on May 31st. I figured I DNF'd like a really flat 100-miler recently, so I was just like, I'm just gonna double down and do an even harder one.
Nice. So, that's exactly. So I DNF'd Zion, and then I DNF'd Bryce, and then is this right? So I DNF'd Zion, DNF'd Bryce, went back and got Zion, and I was like, nice. This makes sense to me now. I'm gonna go get Wasatch, and Wasatch is a beast, like 20 plus thousand feet of gain, and I proceeded to DNF that one 3 times. But like it's almost like I don't do it because I think I can do it anyway. That's not why I do it, because I think I can do it. I'm doing it because even the DNF at my shortest DNF was at Bryce, my second attempt at Bryce, which was 36 miles. My DNF furthest into the race was mile 78 at my first Zion attempt. In each one of those, it's not even like, I learned some important lessons. It's like, I loved it, I loved everything about it. It wasn't like, okay, I failed, I'll get it next time. Well, I want to I want to finish. But so much of what I'm getting out of this doesn't require me to finish. And that's why going into my 10th attempt, I had to say, my goal is to finish. Because in the past, it was like, my goal is to, go until I feel a certain way. My goal is to work through this issue in my life. My goal is to whatever. The 10th attempt, the first time, that was the first time my goal was to run 100 miles. Like that's what I'm here to do, is to run 100 miles. In the past, it was always other things.
Oh man, let's see. I wonder if I actually like did that with mine. I've like I said, I don't know what I've I don't know what I've actually learned for my DNF yet, other than true. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, attempting I know there's a chance that I'm probably not going to finish even the Mohican 100, right? But that's the beauty in it, right? You're doing something that's scary, like you're scared shitless, but you're going after it anyways. I love that. I don't know. I think my first 100 mile was like 6,000 feet. I think the Mohican's like 16,000. So that's a real big jump for, I'm a flatlander, so I'm going after something pretty heavy there, but
I love it.
So my goal is to finish this one.
Maybe make that the goal and see if that changes anything. It might. It did for me.
Well, cool. So what do you think? What do you think keeps you coming back? I mean, would you say 8? You finished 2 of 10 so far?
I finished 2 of 10. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I still want so my first finish was 28 hours, and which I was really happy with, and then my second finish was 35 and a half hours. So I was 30 minutes short of the cutoff, and I was second to last. I think I can get that Zion. This just speaks to how, I don't know, I'll say how stupid we are. My last attempt was I got 35 and a half hours. I believe I could shave 15 and a half hours off that time. I really think I could get Zion in 24 hours. And that's the sort of thing that keeps me going. It's like, I want to go out there and do better. And so, maybe I'll do Zion again. They recently sold or, brought on a private equity partner out of, I think they're out of Southeast Asia, which good for them. Maybe some of its charm isn't there. We'll see how well they do with the 2025 events, but I'm so fixated on it and interested in it that, going back to that course and getting it in 24 hours makes me real excited.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that, because it's like, even though I'm a back of the pack, I always have like these illusions of grandeur that I can like finish one in 24 hours someday. I think that's what keeps me coming back. I'm like, I'm going to get one of those. One of those 24-hour, but even though I know that's like a preposterous notion, but I think that's what keeps me coming back. Like in my heart, I I'm a 24-hour 100-mile runner. I
Me
guess.
too. Me too.
My body and everything else says otherwise.
Not a chance. Nope.
Oh man. So we haven't even talked about this. I want to talk about Borderlands, obviously.
Yeah.
Like starting Borderlands. First of all, I want to know about the name Borderlands. Maybe we can get to the name
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
you. Maybe just run us through, like, I mean, did you like where did Borderlands come from? Like, where was it born from? I guess.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So professionally, I had 2012 started a coffee roasting business, and ended up doing that for 8 years. I started some other things along the way, but we grew it quite a bit, and I sold it to my operating, not operating partner, my head operator, my chief of operations in 2020. But in 2017, I started some bars and some restaurants with another partnership, and throughout the course of that, so sold the coffee roasting business, still had those restaurants. I'm always kind of like within food and beverage, I'm always the branding guy and the finance guy. I kind of have a unique spot carved out where I can play in both of those lanes. Okay. Uh, but then in 2020, late 2020, early 21, I started a private placement fund, which is kind of like a private equity deal. And that was an 18-month business plan. So we were going to do stuff quick, and we did, and me and my partner exited from that. And it was just kind of like, hey, what am I, I only did private equity because I wanted to get back into passion. Coffee was passion, restaurants were passion. I only wanted to do real estate for a minute so that I could get money to go back into passion, because I really just wanted to do passion. And to me, there was no greater passion than trail running. And so started Borderlands, and the idea of Borderlands was, there's not a conversation that goes by where I don't talk about Venn diagrams. Like life to me can be explained through Venn diagrams all day long. And so if you ever look at the Borderlands logo, you'll see the O is an homage to a Venn diagram. I believe, is it with the B? But there's that was the whole starting point. It's like the Borderlands is this, by definition, is the space between two things. And for me, what wasn't happening much in trail was discussions around the person who had a family life, a professional life, but was still endeavoring to run 100 miles. So you draw those three circles. What's the overlap of wanting to run 100 miles, wanting to have a family, and having a job? And that the center of that to me was Borderlands, was the overlap of all those things. And so like a lot of the values of it were urban, where urban meets trail running. And because if you have a family and you have a job, most of the time that job is you're gonna need to be in a city center of some sort. You can work remotely now, of course, more than ever. But for me, that the thinking behind it was, well, we've got to live in cities, like, without getting into like a deep dive into urban planning and urban development. And I love cities. Like, I love the energy of cities. I mean, I'm in Paris right now because it's the epitome of energy in a city, culture, all of these wonderful, beautiful things, design values and museums, and just all of these things that make life aesthetically beautiful and interesting. But I also want to just go be a dirtbag in the desert, and I am not alone in that. That feels like a lot of people in the industry. So what I was trying to build was that borderland, like this community of people who live in those borderlands of, I'm not quite a city person, but I live in the city. I'm not quite a professional, but I do have a job. So for me, so we live in France right now. This is another example. We live in France right now, and we live but from Salt Lake City. Our home is still there. We're renting it out. And so the question is, oh, that's interesting. Now you feel like you're a citizen of two places. And the way that expats think in these scenarios is, actually, no, I'm not a citizen of two places. I'm a stranger in two places now. I don't have like this core feeling of home, but that feeling of being a stranger is partially what we love. I love feeling like a stranger here. That's why I love culture. I love learning the French language. Well, that's what Borderlands is that, I mean, are you are you a sales rep for this tech company in Salt Lake City, or are you a family person, or are you a dirtbag runner? It's like, well, I don't know if I'm any of those, but I'm some sort of like combination of all of them. And so the Borderlands is entirely an expression of that. Like, hey, I get that this like life, there's so much happening, but with Borderlands, it was like, I get it. Like, I see like this whole brand is being built around the runner who's not very good, but cannot stop thinking about the sport and has to be in the sport and is being pulled in every single direction, but you still find time to get to those starting lines.
Oh man, I love that so much. That pretty much encapsulates like how I feel. It's like I'm split off in like all these different directions, like day job, family, and that, but side business and podcasting and writing. But it's like kind of at the heart of it is like, like I'm not a good trail runner, but I just like I love it so much. Like it almost consumes me. But man, I love that it's like kind of at the center of things. Like you said, like a Venn diagram, like all kind of overlaps.
Yeah.
In the middle. I love that. That's good stuff.
Thanks.
So, I mean, could you have ever imagined that Borderlands would take off like it has? Like,
okay, yeah. I mean, because like, okay, going back to the beginning, I think of myself as torque and not even horsepower. Like those are like in the world of entrepreneurship. If someone has an idea, like I can get it going. Like for me, I always thought, yeah, I can get something going. The thing is like, can I make it meaningful? And that's, I mean, as an entrepreneur who's kind of working alone on Borderlands now, like I've got the events and I've got the app, and we can get to that if there's time.
Yeah.
But like for me, sometimes it's when you're alone every day, it's hard. I mean, alone working on the thing that you're trying to build. Sometimes it's hard to know how you're doing, and you just got your head down, you're working, you're building, and I'm the type that will focus in on a objective, and I will go toward it. That's why I can just work in coffee shops in Paris. Like I create the vision where I'm going to go, and then I put my head down and I don't look up until it's over. And so I'm also not good at like celebrating where I'm at. Because, well, okay, let's say, 10 people listen to my podcast. Then my goal was 10 people. Well, by the time I'm at 10 people, I have already created a new vision for 50. And so I don't stop and celebrate the 10, if that makes sense. Because I've already created the new vision. So where I'm at now, it's like, okay, if I go back 2 years ago and think, I've pivoted, I've changed some things, I've had to alter some of like how I'm encapsulating Borderlands and being the heart of trail running. So could I ever imagine where it's at now? I wouldn't have been able to because of how many turns and twists and stuff that it's taken. But also I have this really awful disease that like no matter where I'm at today, even if it's exactly where I had hoped 1 year ago, where I'm sitting today, this is my exact dream. I already moved on from it 6 months ago. And I'm already thinking about 12 months from now. And this is why I love ultra running, because ultra running pulls me into reality right this second.
Absolutely.
If I'm running that 100, I am the most present I will ever be running 100 miles. And I don't like that, but that's also why I love it. It's the only time it pulls me in. So I can imagine that Borderlands was going to have momentum, that I was going to find kind of my tribe, my crowd, my people. But I wouldn't have imagined that it would look the way that it does now.
Man, you that's well said.
Thanks.
You pretty much hit the nail on the head exactly. Kind of like my why, I guess, is same thing. Like, I'll be head down like working on something, but I'm already kind of like already kind of thinking about tomorrow. I never like get to pull back and get like a 30,000 foot view of kind of what I'm actually doing currently. And I don't celebrate the now or like those smaller milestones. And that's what I've always told people. It's like trail running, like it forces me to like hone in on what's directly in front of me. Like, the next step, the next mile, the next calories. Like, I just never knew that. I never actually knew how to say that, but
yeah.
but absolutely.
Yeah, it's like therapy session. This is good for both of us.
We're unpacking a lot here.
Yeah.
uh, but before we got plenty of time, but I do want to give you a chance to talk about the Wylder app too, because
yeah.
And then let's talk running after that. Let's get back to some running stuff. But
yeah,
because I want to give you some space to talk about it. Yeah. So go ahead and tell us about the Wylder app.
After I had started Borderlands, I wasn't sure what it was going to look like. We'd finished up the other real estate stuff and businesses, and there was a group of entrepreneurs. I applied to be a part of this group of entrepreneurs in Paris. This was 2022, and got accepted. It was 75 entrepreneurs, and I think there was 35 countries represented of those 75 people. So people from all over the world coming together to look at different problems in society. I mean, and it's not like social problems. It's not like big problems, just anything. What's anything that's out there that we might be able to use our skills to bring some solutions to and start businesses off of that. And I mean, I loved it. And within that, I explored things that weren't related to trail running. But in the end, I came back to, no, I just started Borderlands. I'm gonna lean into that. And the initial thing I wanted to solve at the time, there was a kid, a man, but he was 15 years younger than me, who had gone on a trail run. I believe it was called the La Plata Enchilada, was the name of the trail in southern Colorado, and got caught in a snowstorm and went missing and was never found. I think to this day, they never found him. And right before I came to Paris on that thing, I had coffee with my friend, and he said, "Hey, did you hear about this?" And I said, "No, I didn't." And he said, "Well, this was my best friend's son." I was like, "Wow, this is crazy." And then while I was in the program, there were two other people that same thing, went missing or fell off of a cliff while running. So three people in the community of trail running in America had passed within like 8 weeks of each other. And so my whole thing was like tending to and thinking through this idea of like being lost in the mountains. Like, how do we the very thing that makes us go out there and love trail running is the thing that gets us in the most trouble. Like, we feel fit, we feel capable. And generally because of how we go park our car, and generally we do an out and back or a loop. But when we do those out and backs, it's like, we're very fit people. Like, we're able to just go for a long time. Well, what if you're doing a 10 mile, a 20 mile out and back, and something happens 10 miles out, you're 10 miles from your car. And so I wanted to start coming up with ways of thinking through how do we be more safe as a trail running community. So I was doing all this market research, and I found the most interesting thing that I came across was when you ask a trail runner on a scale of 1 to 10, how safe should trail runners be? Like, those trail runners out there, how safe should those trail runners out there be? The answer was like 9.2. It was pretty compelling. We solved for a lot of things and felt really confident in that number. And then the next question was, on a scale of 1 to 10, how safe should you be? Not those other trail runners out there, but how safe should you be? And the answer was like 2.3.
Oh, wow.
So the belief is that, yes, all of those runners out there should be safe, but not me. I'm fine. I'm capable. Nothing's going to happen to me, but something could happen to them, but I'm going to be okay. So I couldn't really validate a problem. It was a problem, but it wasn't a pain point. It wasn't something that they actually wanted solved. But I was really obsessed with safety. And so then the other way I was thinking, okay, is there anything that I can build or be a part of that is a little bit sneaky and has the power to make people more safe? And that's where Wylder came from. Because the idea of Wylder is about community, about running together more, about being together. And so the tool is being optimized to encourage more running together, less running alone. And I love running alone. I mean, I absolutely love it. But that's where it was born out of. And so then all the market research on that came back really, really promising. And so we did a digital beta, which is what's available now. But I brought on some partners, and we have a full version 1.0 that's releasing hopefully in January, maybe February of next year. And the idea is, if you have a run club, we want to host your run club. We want to give you tools, and then we want you to be able to put it on the marketplace. So imagine, you're visiting Salt Lake City and you want to go for a run that Saturday morning. Well, you could look and see a run club that's going for a run that Saturday morning, where they're going, what their pace is going to be. Or if you just moved to a new city or you just got into running, you could go up on the marketplace and look at all of these clubs that want more members, and you could go start joining and jumping in on run clubs. So it's a place for people to find new run clubs, and it's tools for existing run clubs to run them more efficiently.
Oh, cool. And you, like you said, you can kind of find a group that kind of suits your pace and probably distance and like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's really hard to find someone to run with.
Oh, it's really, really tough. Like you said, I do. I mean, I love running alone, but I also like feeling like a connection with like a group, but yeah, it's tough to start one. I've been trying very unsuccessfully to start a run club in this town. I live in like kind of like a running desert, so it's been really tough to like start one here. So it's just like, well, I'll just keep running in circles in the middle of the town that people start
so
doing.
That's what I would hope to solve. Like, so not only do I want to go bring on really large existing run clubs, so that way someone who's looking for one can go find it, but then also for someone like you who's trying to start one in an area, if you start one, you have one or two other people, you can put it up on the marketplace, and then anyone within a 25-mile radius of you or 50-mile radius of you could search and join your club. Like, so it's a way for clubs to be discovered, to grow, and then also building in tools for run club managers, run club captains to be able to be compensated, and because of the amount of work that goes into it. So we're kind of working through all that, but the goal would be, someone like you, like we want to help you find people so you can have that run club because there's the safety in it. But you actually said that the number one reason people want run clubs is what you said, is that sense of belonging.
Yeah.
And that connection with other people who are like you.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait for you to. You said January. That's going to be super cool.
It should be January or February. Yeah, I actually should be getting an update with my team hopefully today.
Oh, cool. All right. Yeah, I look forward to that. Seeing that develop.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, cool. Thanks for obviously running through that. But I was wanting to kind of double back. I have some questions. I have a lot of questions, but
please.
This could be 3 hours long, and I probably wouldn't get through all these. Like I said, I've been listening for a while, so I'm just like, I've been taking little mental notes. So I
appreciate
what I would ask you if I got the chance to ever actually chat with you. So I've been really digging the Bad Runners takes and all the stuff you're coming out with. But I had some questions that are kind of related to that. But because you guys have been talking about like gear and like, I really liked the brand ambassador episode you guys did.
Oh yeah,
because I got sucked into a few of those myself. And they're cool. But all that aside, like, I guess my big question is like, where do you see like the future of trail running? Like, where do you think it's headed now? Like, let's say 5 years from now, like, how do you think that's going to look, like the actual space?
Yeah, I mean, okay, on some levels I am an entrepreneur, but I also think that when something's so like beautiful and pure and grassroots like trail running, when entrepreneurs start to get their hands on it, they end up monetizing every last aspect of it. And if we believe that in markets and people want it, they love the sport, they want to open their wallets for the sport, and so everything starts to cost money and all this. I've been watching. I almost went, but I decided not to. The running event, TRE.
Oh yeah.
And I'm watching all these new shoes, and to me. So you caught me at a time where I was. This is fresh. So here's a Bad Runner's take. Which the idea of Bad Runner's take is that these are probably bad takes, or it's just me. I'm a bad runner. But this is my my take on things, and I'm a little turned off by like how much shoes advanced from last year to this year at TRE. Like, I don't know if you saw them. It's losing some of its charm, but to the advantage of runners. I mean, I realize that's what I got to hold in tension here.
Oh yeah.
But what we wanted to, on a recent episode, which my friend Wolf Runner joins me, Brian Peterson joins me on each of those episodes. They say about running, like, just put on a pair of shoes and go. That's actually done. Like, that's not what running is anymore. It's so far from put on your shoes and go. It's, maybe there's certain days where we do that, but you got to have your running watch. You've got to have shoes. You got to have good clothes. And I love it all. I do. I love it all. But the romance and charm of just put on a pair of shoes and go is gone. And TRE, like when I first got into it, I haven't been into running that long, 13 years, a pair of shoes did not get into the triple digits. Like I was paying $75, $85 for the Brooks Cascadias. And now, they're awesome. Too. Speedlands, they're new. They just released a road shoe at TRE, which is going to be cool. I'm going to try and get my hands on them. Norda coming in at 300 euros here in France. I don't know if they're north of $300. It's our willingness to pay is really high because we love it so much. So those prices are high because people are paying them. So on the one hand, this is great. We want it, but the future of running is where cycling went, and I'm far from the expert on this, but I think of Rafa was probably the turning point. The reason that my website is borderlands.cc is because I love Rafa, even though I'm not a cyclist. It's a case study in brilliant marketing around a soul sport. So they're Rafa CC, but when where was I going with that? I just got excited about their marketing. Oh, the way that they, bike cycling became just more and more expensive. Yeah, well, that's where running is now. I mean, with cycling, the same thing. You could say just get on a bike and go. Well, it's just not that anymore. But we've done this to ourselves, and it's not. Yeah, bad.
It's amazing how expensive it can be. Like same thing, but it's like it's not. It's like you said, it's evolved so much more than just. You have to have I love my Coros watch, but it's like you have to have the new Coros and like. The whatever the new Hoka is, like I love Hokas too, but but I'm still clinging on to my cotton shirts. By the way, I'm on a hold fast on those. Nice. I have not quite gotten into not spending a bunch of money on clothing just yet, but
there's still time.
Do you think? Like obviously this is like a good thing for trail running, but do you think it almost makes it like it's too polished and too shiny? Like, do you think it maybe takes away some of like the rough edges of what like trail running is?
Yeah, but I think it's the similar thing to like pre 1994 punk rock to post 1994 punk rock, like Green Day. That's when Dookie came out. Rancid's An Outcome of Wolves came out.
What a year!
A little bit after that, yeah. I mean, great. It was a great year for music. There's a point where the way that we all have grown up and the way that we all start to have money after a certain point, and the way that the money comes into the sport. The way that it, changed music, like all of a sudden, it's just like there's just new expectations surrounding it. And will you ask that question again? I guess I'm chasing it.
Yeah, I was like, do you think like all this is making like trail running like too polished and like too shiny? Okay. Like it's kind of taking away some of like the grit and like Yeah.
Okay, so here's where I'm going with that. So now it's so attractive because it has mass appeal. It's kind of like it's bringing in athletes that would like really great athletes that would have chosen football or would have chosen baseball. They're starting, to choose running and to choose road running. So it's like, the way that records are being broken every year at our major events, it's crazy how much they're being broken and how much they'll continue. I mean, I can't believe Leadville is still getting faster, and Western States is still
Tunnel
potentially
Hill.
Getting faster. And Tunnel Hill is ridiculous. So it just feels like because the way that everyone's coming in, it's going to get polished and more polished, just like music did in the punk rock in the post 1994 it was just bringing in musicians that might have gone straight to rock and roll and not come punk rock. So it just has this mass appeal. It's bringing in more talented people, whereas before, let's say, before Born to Run, it was mostly people like Scott Jurek, who were the elites, who were, had some great street cred. Like they were very much dirtbag. There was no money in it. I had Hal Kerner on the podcast once, and he said that he used to run sometimes in jean shorts. It's just that's gone. So it's getting polished, but I think to their advantage. But I do think that the dirtbag version of it lives on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny though. It doesn't matter how like polished it'll get. I'll probably always consume it. It's just amazing.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Well, okay. I got one quick question,
Okay.
and then we'll be out of time, unfortunately. You were basically you're still a musician.
Yeah.
So something I like to do on another podcast is ask people what they're listening to. It's kind of a late icebreaker question.
Yeah.
So what's in your earbuds? Like, what are you listening to currently?
Steven Wilson Jr. Almost on repeat right now. I mean, I got to pull up on my phone to see the names of his songs. It's incredible. He's got, so the album is called Son of Dad.
Okay.
And there's a song, one of the songs, is father's son, but the other one is Grief is Only Love. I can't get enough of I'm just kind of playing those songs on repeat. Let's see, recent listens also a lot of Bruce Springsteen lately, which Steven Wilson Jr. has some moments of Bruce Springsteen in it. Tycho, I've been listening to a lot of Tycho lately. Gosh, yeah, those are the big hits of late. I've actually been listening to music more often than not lately. I usually listen to podcasts, but I've been on a music kick.
Oh, nice. Yeah, sometimes it's nice to kind of break it up with. Cool, man. I'll add these. So we have a playlist we've been like sharing with like the whole community.
Okay.
So I'll add.
Awesome.
I can send you the link to that, or I'll add these to that.
Yeah, please do.
And maybe since you're a musician, I'll have to double back one day and have you on our music podcast too. We talk a little bit of running, but well, cool, man. Thanks for coming on. This is awesome. Like I said, I was like really stoked. I was just like, wow. First of all, you said yes, so I thought that was pretty wild. I kind of think he is like a juggernaut in like the podcasting space, and I've been consuming Borderlands content since I found it, and it's just so rad to have you on, man. So it was an honor. So just
my pleasure.
Man, and I'd love to have you back on as things develop and as you grow. And I have a lot more questions, so I'll have to have you back on.
Yeah, man, let's do. Well, I'm up for a round two. Let's figure it out.
Cool. So if real quick, if you had to like leave us with like a little bit of advice for anyone that might be listening, what would that be?
Gosh, I think if this is just how I think about it, like if you have conquered the distance, and what I mean by conquered the distance that you most wanted to run, like a majority of the time you finish it, to go to the next one, go to the next distance, because I think to remember what it's like to stand at the starting line, not sure if you're going to finish, like that's the best feeling. Like if I'm at the start of a 50 miler, I'm pretty sure I'm going to finish it. And that's why I'm like, I don't want to do that. But when I'm at 100 miler, it's like, unless everything goes right today, I'm going to fail. And that's the best feeling. That's why I show up to the starting lines. I want to know that if I don't have a great day, I'm going to fail. Like I've got to be dialed. I've got to be ready. I've got to be focused. And so, the reason we all got into this was because that feeling at the starting line and that feeling at the finish line.
Yeah, it's like a really weird like drag in the chase, isn't it? It's like I don't know if I'm going to make it, but
yeah, here we go.
Well, cool, man. Thanks for coming on.
Of course.
I won't take up any more of your time. Like I said, we'll have to have a round two, and I look forward to more of your stuff coming out. This is really cool. Thank you so much, Josh, and thank you for anybody that might tune in. Find Josh on Instagram. You're on Threads now. Borderlands. It's a pretty unique logo, so you can't really miss it. And just dig into his stuff. I promise you'll love it. If you're a trail runner, man, just dig in and hold on. It's good stuff, man. Thank you, Josh, for coming on, and appreciate everybody tuning in. Yeah. All right, man. Well, I'll let you go. We'll plan on a round two sometime soon.
Love it. All right, man. Take care.